Welcome to our deep dive into a dialogue between a master and an apprentice. The topic might sound abstract: conduct in life and the vexation of 寻思. Searching. Don't change the channel yet. Its starting point is fascinating. It attempts to answer an age-old question. How did Liu Bei of the Three Kingdoms era, who had no money and no territory, eventually become a major ruler and inspire so many heroes to pledge their lives to him? Even more intriguing, the material connects Liu Bei's success with a highly hidden, yet immensely destructive, psychological pattern within all of us. The one hidden in the term you just mentioned, 寻思. That's right. So, our mission today is to follow this material on a journey from the public actions of a historical hero all the way into the deepest recesses of our own minds, our thoughts. We need to figure out two things. First, how much attractive power does genuine selflessness, the kind that disregards personal gain, truly possess? Second, how does our own internal habit of unconsciously searching for others' flaws subtly determine our relationships and even our future destiny? I hope that by the end of this journey, you'll have a brand new perspective on how to view others and how to view yourself. Part 1. Liu Bei and the immeasurable power of selflessness. Let's start with Liu Bei. The text immediately poses this grand question. What exactly was Liu Bei relying on? The answer it provides is direct, even challenging to our modern values. It says, because Liu Bei was always considering the interests of others and never considered himself. The modern person's first reaction to this is probably, that's fake, high-flown rhetoric, right? But the material uses an extreme example to prove this isn't empty talk. The Battle of Changban Slope. That's right, the famous Changban Slope. At that time, Liu Bei was being pursued by Cao Cao's army of hundreds of thousands. It was an almost certain death situation, yet he was still accompanied by over 100 slow-moving common folk. Militarily, this was an act of suicide. I remember the text mentioning that all his subordinates pleaded with him, saying, "My lord, we will all perish with this baggage. Quickly abandon them and save yourself." Honestly, at that moment of life and death, that was absolutely the most rational advice. But Liu Bei refused. He said, "He who undertakes a great cause must put people first. These people have come to me, how can I abandon them?" Wow, that sentence carries a lot of weight. It means they trust me so much and have come to follow me. How can I abandon them? He chose to live or die with these common folk. Crucially, this wasn't an act for the camera. It was a real life and death decision. And there was a very important person watching nearby, observing coolly, Zhao Yun. The material highlights an interesting detail. Zhao Yun wasn't truly one of Liu Bei's core subordinates yet. He was watching, observing. He wanted to know if the benevolence and righteousness Liu Bei always spoke of was real gold or just plated. This observation was super important. What Zhao Yun saw was the entire army scattered, chaotic. Liu Bei couldn't even find his own wife and children. Yet in this state of extreme distress, and when he couldn't even guarantee his own safety, what he cared about most were those defenseless civilians. It was this scene, this authenticity, that completely won over Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun realized this was a person worth following with his life. The material uses the phrase, Liu Bei's action was creating the Yuanqi origin, genesis of a cause. Yuanqi, that sounds a bit like Buddha's philosophy. How should we understand it? You can understand it like planting a seed that attracts people of the same kind. When your motivation is purely for others, you become a magnet, attracting those who value the same principles. Conversely, if your motivation is calculation or utilization, then you will only attract people who want to calculate and utilize you. This brings up a famous Chinese saying, Liu Bei throws his child to buy people's hearts. This is widely circulated. Many people think Liu Bei was a great actor, a hypocrite. The material completely refutes this. It says, the person who says Liu Bei threw his child to buy people's hearts is precisely exposing their own inner world, because they themselves are a person who views the world through calculation and exchange. In their cognition, pure goodwill is impossible. Every action must have a purpose behind it. This makes a lot of sense. Think about it. At that moment, when his life was nearly over, what practical meaning was there in buying people's hearts? None. If you die, can the bought hearts help you fend off Cao Cao's massive army? Impossible. Therefore, when someone judges Liu Bei from this perspective, they are essentially telling us, if I were in that situation, my purpose would definitely be to buy people's hearts. Exactly. So the first core concept emerges. How you interpret others' behavior is often not an evaluation of them, but a demonstration of your own inner capacity to the world. And Liu Bei's story tells us that true selflessness is not a moral strategy. It is, in itself, a power and indomitable force that attracts your most steadfast allies. Part 2. The two sides of Xun. Searching. This is very interesting. Our outward behavior is actually determined by our internal model of viewing the world. That makes me curious. Did the material delve deeper into how this world viewing model operates within us? You mentioned the word Xun at the beginning. That's right. The dialogue then spends a long time dissecting the word Xun, searching. The Xun searching? Yes, we usually understand searching simply, but in this text, Xun is given several layers of depth. It's not just about finding a teacher to nominally follow. The key is to seek the right, truly useful teacher. The material uses a vivid analogy. If you want to learn to drive, you can't go to a master tofu maker. No matter how good their tofu is, they can't teach you how to parallel park. This reminds me that when we encounter life difficulties, we sometimes just confide in friends, but they are often just as confused as we are. The result is often just mutual solace, not truly xun shi, finding the person who can give us correct guidance. This is the key. The text says, if you always unilaterally ask for help, that relationship is very fragile. The other party might feel you are cheap, or even put on airs. The best alliance is one where both sides value each other. But the xun here has an even deeper meaning. Rewarming a cold relationship. This is interesting. When our relationship with friends or family cools, we often just let it go. But the wise person takes the initiative to xun, to find where the crux of the problem lies. Is it a misunderstanding, a lack of contact, or a divergence in values? Once the problem is found, they resolve it and let the relationship warm up. This active xun is a skill for managing relationships. Next is the highest realm of xun, called jinyin. This word in, immersion, sounds a bit negative now. Yes, so the material specifically explains that in ancient times, in meant to be immersed in, to be focused and dedicated. I see. Like doing scholarship, scientific research, or spiritual practice, you need to be wholeheartedly devoted, reaching a state of immersion, like what we call flow state now. Yes, very much like flow or deep work. Only in this state can you search for the truth of things or genuine breakthroughs. So, xun can be a very positive, focused state. However, the dialogue immediately presents a counterexample, called the fool xun. This is the exact opposite state, no goal, scattered attention. The material describes it like this. This person originally intended to search for someone, but on the way, they saw a beautiful flower, stopped to admire it, and forgot about the person. Then they saw an interesting insect and ran to chase it, forgetting the flower too. In the end, they were completely lost and couldn't remember what they were supposed to be doing in the first place. Isn't that the perfect description of us scrolling on our phones every day? You are right. You originally wanted to look up some information, but ended up clicking on a news alert. After reading the news, you are drawn in by a video nearby. An hour later, you come back to reality, having long forgotten what you initially intended to search for. Completely forgotten. This is a very important question for us to reflect on. In your life, work, or study, are you in the state of focused, immersive jinyin searching? Or are you, under the interference of various information, constantly switching goals like a fool, ultimately achieving nothing? The quality of your xun determines the quality of your life. Part 3. The vexation of xuns. Searching and scrutinizing. If xun itself can be neutral or even positive, when it is combined with the word si, the meaning takes a sharp turn for the worse. That's right. The material spends the largest amount of time discussing the vexation of xun sis. Si itself means to wait, observe, or spy. When xun and si combined, it becomes a negative search pattern with a strong preconceived notion. A preconceived notion? Yes. The core mentality is, deep down, I have already determined that you have a problem. I have already pronounced them guilty. Yes, what I need to do now is wait. Search and gather evidence to prove my view is correct. So they are not objectively observing facts. They are looking for an opportunity to validate their own bias. Absolutely correct. The personal experience shared by the master in the dialogue is truly classic. What did he say? He said that in his village, there were some elders who just decided that he was insincere and untrustworthy. To prove this point, they did something unimaginable. What? They took turns monitoring him. Taking turns monitoring? Seriously? That's too much. The details are even more exaggerated. He said that in the summer, those elders would hide in the tall, dense cotton fields at the village entrance, enduring the bites of flying mosquitoes, just to wait for that moment when they could catch him making a mistake. Wait a minute, hiding in a swarm of mosquitoes for years? That sounds less like finding fault with someone else and more like self-inflicted torture. That's the most core and terrifying aspect of the vexation of xun si. It is essentially an extremely painful form of self-torment, and the result they anticipate being able to point fingers and rage after catching a mistake. That state of anger is itself suffering. From a painful process, they pursue a painful result. That is completely illogical. So the conclusion the material draws is that the characteristic of this vexation is, they insist on creating suffering for themselves to feel secure. The root of this mentality is that they need to prove others are bad people to maintain the weak internal safety of I am right. For this small bit of security, they are willing to endure immense physical and mental suffering. That's exactly it. This reminds me of another point mentioned in the text. The label you use to brand others is often your own characteristic. How should we understand that? This is a deep psychological insight. When you are constantly xun si whether others are lazy and greedy, your brain is continuously processing and reinforcing the concepts of lazy and greedy. You are constantly creating a world full of laziness and greed for yourself. Over time, these characteristics will manifest in you. So what your mouth speaks not only proves what kind of person you are, but is also casting a spell for yourself, creating a corresponding future. Part 4. The higher wisdom of dealing with fault-finding. This leads to a very real problem. Honestly, if I found someone constantly scrutinizing me with the xun si mentality, my first reaction would definitely be anger. I would want to retaliate. That's a natural human reaction. Isn't that normal? Does the material suggest we suppress this instinct? That's an excellent question. And the advice given in the text might feel extremely counter-intuitive. How so? It says that when you encounter this situation, not only should you not retaliate, but you should instead cultivate compassion and even gratitude towards them. Gratitude? I really can't understand that. My reason tells me it might be valid. But emotionally, I can't get past it. They spend years stalking you like a fly and spreading rumors. How can that generate feelings of gratitude? The material explains how to achieve this mindset. You need to re-understand the true meaning of the words renru, endurance, bearing, insult. Many people think renru means passively accepting, not fighting back, being a soft target. But the text says this is a complete misunderstanding. The essence of renru is not patience. Then what is it? It is having a correct understanding of the situation. A correct understanding? Understanding what? You need to recognize 3 things. See clearly that the other person is using their own actions to create an extremely painful future for themselves. Everything they do to you today will ultimately return to them. They are a pitiable person who is digging a pit of fire for themselves. This is the source of compassion. It's not sympathy, but understanding their predicament from the perspective of cause and effect. Recognize that they are using their personal experience to teach you the most valuable lesson. A lesson? They are a living demonstration of how terrible 寻思 vexation is. They show you what kind of person this path turns one into. They use their suffering to alert me, to ensure I never walk the path they are on. From this perspective, aren't they your teacher? Do they not have benevolence toward you? From this perspective, indeed, they taught me a positive lesson through a negative example. Recognize that if you confront them, even if you win the argument, you have actually lost, because you have allowed yourself to fall into that pit of anger and calculation, becoming the very thing you hate. True strength is not defeating your enemy, but maintaining your own inner compassion and clarity in the face of criticism and attack. Do not be pulled down to the same level as them. The other person has provided you with a rare opportunity for self-cultivation, allowing you to practice this kind of internal stability. When you can achieve this, you have awakened. So of course, you should be grateful to them. Today's content was truly layered. We started with Liu Bei's public choice on the battlefield, and saw that selflessness is a genuine power. Then we delved into the inner world, dissecting the word 寻, and reflecting on our own focus in learning and work. Finally, through the extreme example of the 寻思 vexation, we glimpsed a common but hidden form of self-torment, and the higher wisdom for dealing with it. The core connection here is that the way we treat the outside world, conduct in life, and the way we examine our inner world 寻 are two sides of the same coin. They influence and shape each other. Is your heart creating trust and good relationships for yourself and others? Or is it constantly searching for conflict and suffering? This choice is happening at every moment. Finally, I want to leave you with a question for solitary contemplation. There is a sentence in the dialogue that I believe is the summation of all today's content. If you want to know the future result, examine what you are doing now. This is a great sentence. It means if you want to know what your future will look like, you don't need to get your fortune told. Just look at what you are thinking and doing right now, and it will be perfectly clear, because your every thought, every word, and every action is paving the way for your future. So why not take some time today to quietly observe yourself? When you interact with family, colleagues, or friends, is your heart searching for their strengths and lovable qualities? Or are you subconsciously searching for their flaws and problems? What kind of future is your every thought currently creating for yourself?